Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we get into the weeds of the Formula One world. It's definitely a sport where what happens on track is, well, just part of the picture. Behind the scenes, there's always strategy, drama.
Oh, absolutely. And today we're really digging into some interesting stuff around Williams Racing and Carlos Sainz Jr. too.
Yeah.
We've got reports on that team order thing in Miami, some news about Carlos Sainz Sr. potentially eyeing the FIA presidency, and a really good analysis from F1 blogs on Williams' long-term game plan.
Right. So the mission today is basically to unpack all that, figure out what it means for Williams, for Saints, and, what it tells us about where the team might be heading.
Exactly. Let's
Yeah.
get into it.
Okay, so Miami, there was a bit of a situation, wasn't there? Albon overtook Saints, but it looked like maybe he wasn't supposed to.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Sainz sounded pretty frustrated right after, saying he wasn't sure Albon got the message to hold station. But what's quite interesting is how James Vowles, the team boss at Williams, handled it. Apparently, he got them both together and, sorted it out really fast. He said it was just a 2-minute chat.
2 minutes, seriously. Given how touchy team orders can be, that sounds incredibly quick.
It does, doesn't it? Swift resolution, you could say?
So what actually caused the confusion in the first place? Why did they even need that chat?
Okay, so the root cause was apparently a cooling issue on Albon's car.
Ah, right.
Yeah, they needed more air to the radiator. So the options were basically overtake the car ahead or drop way back. But at the same time, the engineers were, discussing the best strategy. It seems like one message went out saying something like, don't worry, Alex won't attack, while another conversation about what to do was still happening. So crossed wires, essentially.
So simultaneous chat created the problem. That really shows how intense things get on the pit wall, doesn't it? Filtering all that info.
Totally. And Vowles is really clear it wasn't Albon ignoring orders or anything like that.
Okay, good.
No, he took full responsibility, said it was a pit wall mistake, basically a communication breakdown. He stressed they need clearer, more direct messages. He even had that analogy.
It's a parrots thing.
Yeah. Engineers as parrots needing simple instructions, like instruction not to overtake. Simple, right, in theory.
Huh, yeah. Easier said than done sometimes, I guess. But it's good. Sainz seemed pretty pragmatic about it once he got the explanation, focused on fixing the process.
Exactly. He wanted to know the plan going forward. Shows his focus. And Vowles committing to improving their comms, well, that shows they're learning. It just highlights how vital every single word is in this sport.
Definitely. Okay, let's completely change direction now. This other big piece of news, or potential news, Carlos Sainz Sr., the rally legend, his dad, potentially running for FIA president.
Yeah, that's certainly making waves. Several reports suggest Sainz Sr. is seriously thinking about throwing his hat in the ring for the top job at the FIA, currently held by Ben Sulayem.
And that immediately brings up, well, the conflict of interest question, right? With Sainz Jr. being a top driver and also head of the GPDA.
That's the nub of it, yes.
Yeah.
If his father is running the whole show, could that look bad? Or even be bad?
What's Sainz Jr.'s take?
He's pushed back really hard on that. He's basically saying, look, both he and his father have way too much integrity. They'd be hyper aware of any potential conflict and would bend over backwards to avoid even the perception of favoritism.
Yeah.
He argues they'd be extra careful because of the relationship.
Interesting angle. And he seems to think his dad would actually be a great fit for the job itself.
Oh, yeah, he makes a strong case. He points to his father's incredible breadth of experience, involvement in karting, helping Carlos Jr. in single-seaters, being around F1 for a decade as a parent. Plus, obviously, the 40-year rally career.
And road safety too, right?
Exactly. Road safety work in Spain. So it's this really deep understanding of motorsport from almost every angle, not just the elite level.
And this wasn't just Saint Senior's idea initially. It came from others in the sport.
That seems to be the story. Apparently, people within the paddock approached him, encouraged him to think about it. So now he's, evaluating, looking at the team he'd need, the support, figuring out the whole FIA election process, which is complicated.
Yeah, I bet. Hundreds of associations, different countries. It's a massive political job, isn't it?
It really is. Sainz Jr. admitted the politics isn't his dad's favorite part, but he thinks his father's sort of common sense and vast experience could actually help navigate all that. Carlos Jr. is staying focused on driving for Williams, obviously, but he's aware of what his dad's considering.
It definitely adds another fascinating layer to the F1 political landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pivot again. F1 blogs on YouTube, they did an analysis of Williams' strategy, suggesting they're looking very long-term.
Yes, and it's a really thought-provoking take. F1 blogs basically argues Williams is sacrificing potential results this season in 2025 to go all in on the future.
Even though they're doing pretty well right now, fifth in the championship, some strong races like Miami.
Exactly. That's what makes it so interesting. Despite their best season start in ages, the analysis suggests they've already stopped wind tunnel development for the 2025 car.
Wow. Okay, so wind tunnel down, full focus on 2026.
That seems to be the message. The huge rule changes coming in 2026, that's the target. Valls has been quite open about this long-term view, and apparently both Albon and Sainz Jr. are on board with it.
That's a bold strategy, especially when other teams are still probably trying to squeeze every last bit out of their current cars. What's the logic?
The core idea, according to the F1 blog's analysis, is that 2026 is a reset, a massive opportunity for Williams to properly leap up the grid. They want to break that cycle of just putting plasters on problems, short-term fixes.
Right, build something more fundamental.
Precisely. Focus on infrastructure, technology, internal metrics, things beyond just where they finish this year. Vowles has talked about hitting internal KPIs, improving how quickly they design and build parts.
So success isn't just points on the board for them right now.
Seems not. It's about building the capacity to fight at the front later. But look, it's a gamble. If they get the 2026 regs wrong,
Yeah, they could be left behind, lose momentum, maybe even drivers. F1 blogs also mentioned something about the current car's weaknesses being part of this plan, didn't they?
they did. They highlighted entry instability in corners. Basically, the car struggling to settle as the driver turns in while braking. It's been a bit of a Williams trait.
Okay.
And that's exactly the kind of deep-rooted handling issue they're aiming to fix with this ground-up 2026 project. They see this year's performance as good, a result of past work, but the real push for the front, that's penciled in for more like 2027, 2028. For anyone wanting a deeper dive on this, seriously, check out the F1 Blog's YouTube channel. Welcome to the channel if you're listening from there. They do great breakdowns.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a channel worth watching. So a very clear vision from Williams, even if it is high stakes. Fascinating to see if this 2026 bet pays off.
Absolutely. So just to wrap up our deep dive today, we've looked at how Williams handled that Miami team order hiccup, Carlos Sainz Jr.'s perspective on his father's potential FIA run, and that F1 blog's analysis of Williams' really bold long-term strategy focusing everything on 2026. Lots going on.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought for you listening. Williams is looking pretty decent right now, but they're essentially stopping development to bet the farm on 2026. What do you think? What are the biggest risks and maybe the biggest rewards of going all in like this? Something to ponder. And again, for more detailed F1 analysis, especially on things like Williams' strategy, head over and subscribe to the F1 Blog's YouTube channel.